Hey everybody! Today, we are going to be talking about the 4.7 Archon quest Bedtime story. I mean, what can I even say? It finally feels like the broad strokes of the entire story are being revealed to us with the amount of lore bombs we got with this quest. The reveal of the 5 sinners of Khaenri'ah, Carrybear's fate, some insight to the Abyss siblings' mentality, and the completion of the Loom of Fate all tied in this one neat package. That is a lot. Let's take a moment to decipher what all of this could mean. In fact, I have a theory for you right now, using the info we obtained in this quest to predict what the Abyss Order wants, what Celestia wants, and what we as the protagonist will do in the future of this story. How does all of this fit in with the tale of the princess and the 6 pygmies? And what does the Garden of Recollection from Honkai Star Rail have to do with Tevat's story? Keep watching to find out. In the Archon quest, Dainsleif reveals to us that there are 5 individuals known as the Sinners of Khaenri'ah, being Hraptatir the Wise, Vedrfolnir the Visionary, Gold Rhindaughter, Sertologi the Foul, and Rerir the Rache of Solnari. Let's see Dawit try to pronounce these names. We know Rhindaughter, of course, a powerful witch of the Hexen Circle who created beings such as Elenas, Durin, and Albedo. She was originally from Khaenri'ah and, as Skirk points out, on a mission to achieve some sort of perfection. Sertologi we've also heard of, a la Skirk. Sertologi is Skirk's master, and Skirk, in turn, is Tartaglia's master, who doesn't even need to use both of her hands to defeat him in combat. This would suggest that Sertologi wields immense physical strength. Vedrfolnir was also mentioned by Skirk, and Dane reveals to us that he is the brother of the Visionary. We also learned that the voice of the sinner we heard in the Carrybear quest was Vedrfolnir, and that he was not only the one who predicted the prophecy of Fontaine, but also the person who spoke to Clotar Alberic and inspired him to create the Abyss Order. So, Dainsleif says that these 5 sinners could have prevented the Vinster King from rocking the foundation of the world if they had just, worked with Dainsleif. Instead, they chose to embrace the Abyss and divide amongst themselves world-shattering power. When the Cataclysm came, not one of these sinners came to Khaenri'ah's aid. Let's ponder that number for just a second. Okay, 5 sinners, but 6, if you count Dainsleif. So we have 6 powerful beings, 5 of whom betrayed Khaenri'ah. Doing the math, So, upon hearing the info about the 5 sinners, my mind immediately goes to the story of the Pale Princess and the 6 Pygmies. At first, you might think, this story is about the Seelie race, or the Cryo-Archon, or whatever, but I will prove to you that the story of these 5 sinners perfectly aligns with the story of the Pale Princess and the 6 Pygmies. Trust me on this. So, for those of you who don't know the story all that well, in broad strokes, The Pale Princess and the 6 Pygmies is a tale that takes place in the Land of Night, which was ruled over by the Night Mother. Now, there was only one place in the Land of Night where the Night Mother did not hold dominion over, that being the Moonlight Forest. The Moonlight Forest was ruled over by a pale princess who wished to venture to the lands beyond the moon. One day, a prince arrived at her kingdom, telling her that he knew the way out of the dark forest, so the 2 of them ventured out. Eventually, the 2 of them came across the land of the Pygmies, where a deformed Pygmy begged the princess and the prince to save his 5 brothers. After they did, the Pygmies all became the princess's subjects, and they all continued to venture towards the Kingdom of Light. However, the Pygmies began to secretly plot against the prince and princess, planning on using the prince's power for themselves. They eventually succeeded in carrying forth their scheme, and the prince was killed. However, one of the Pygmies did not partake in the scheming and felt guilty for betraying the princess, so he wrapped up the prince's body and hurried back to the Moonlight Forest. Meanwhile, the other 5 Pygmies celebrated by cooking up and feasting on some soup. However, the prince's broken soul used up its power to inflict a curse on the remaining 5 Pygmies, to forevermore feel as though they were boiling in a pot of soup. When the 6th Pygmy eventually reached the Moonlight Forest, the Night Mother was already there, and laughed at the Pygmy, for she already put the princess into a deep slumber. However, the Night Mother told the Pygmy that one day in the distant future, someone would come to the Kingdom of Darkness, free the princess, resurrect the prince, and only then shall the Kingdom of Night be vanquished, but not before. That was the TLDR version of the story. Now, without any time to waste, let's draw up the similarities between the tale of the 6 pygmies and the 5 sinners we learn about from Dain. For one, they are one and the same. The 6 pygmies in the tale represent Khaenri'ah's 5 sinners plus Dainsleif. There were 5 sinners who stayed sinners to the end, which mirrors the 5 pygmies, and Dainsleif, being the 6th pygmy, tried to stop everything far too late and failed. Now, the comparisons don't end there, for you see, we can gauge the identities of the Pale Princess, the Prince, and maybe even the Night Mother. We can definitely guess the identity of the Descender that the Night Mother mentions, because yeah, the exact turn of phrase the Night Mother uses is, "In thousands of years' time, my greatest foe shall descend." Descend. We, as the Traveler, are obviously this great foe. Now, as to the princess, well, it might be obvious if you have been paying attention to this theory thus far, it's obviously the Abyss sibling. Now, this is where some of you might become skeptical of this theory. In the tale, the Pale Princess is described to preside over the Kingdom of Moonlight, a race of people with fair skin and blue eyes, and wouldn't you look at that? Every Khaenri'ah we have met so far has fair skin and blue eyes. That's right, I believe that the Moonlight Kingdom mentioned in this tale is Khaenri'ah. How would the Abyss sibling be the ruler of Khaenri'ah, you might ask? That doesn't make sense. Well, here's the thing. I don't think the Abyss sibling was the literal queen of Khaenri'ah. Rather, she is the heir to Khaenri'ah. In the Gnostic chorus, it is said that a kingdom amongst the heavens sent its crowned heir to seek the Genesis Pearl within the kingdom of darkness. But that same heir was deceived into thinking she was the ruler of the kingdom of darkness. I mean, there you have it. Perhaps Khaenri'ah loved the Abyss siblings so much that they made them its heir. We know that they clearly held beings from beyond the stars in high regard, so much so that they built orphanages and devised entire organizations with the task of housing and raising these beings. All in all, I posit that the Abyss sibling was the heir to Khaenri'ah, sent out to receive the Genesis Pearl from the Abyss, but was then tricked into believing that they were the ruler of the Abyss. How well does this series of events tie into both the tale of the Pale Princess and the Gnostic chorus? Surprisingly well. The Abyss sibling being an heir of either the Kingdom of Light, as the Gnostic chorus puts it, or the Moonlight Kingdom of the tale of the princess makes sense. Khaenri'ah has a strong connection with both eclipses and blood moons. They have dynasties named after them. And as for the Kingdom of Light, well, if you subscribe to the theory that Teyvat is upside down, what is the underground kingdom of Khaenri'ah but a kingdom in the heavens? Now, on to the actual journey of the Abyss sibling. In the Gnostic chorus, it is said that the princess was sent on a mission to receive the Genesis Pearl in the Kingdom of Darkness, or the Abyss, whereas in the tale, the princess and the prince travel together through the Dark Forest, or the Abyss. People kinda assume that the two of them are traveling towards the Kingdom of Light, but that was never actually confirmed. Only that the princess wanted to go to the Kingdom of Light one day. What if the two of them were instead searching for the Genesis Pearl? The two stories are practically the same, except on one note. Now, while the princess and the 6 pygmies state that the princess was imprisoned by the Night Mother, the Gnostic chorus simply states that the heir was deceived. And to be honest, you got me there, alright? This is the one point in the theory where a lot of holes start showing up, but I swear the rest of the theory makes sense, alright? It really does, if you are willing to look past that one thing. Now, without further delay, on to the 5 sinners. It's theorized, and is very plausible, that the Khaenri'ahs dabbled in abyssal magic before the Abyss sibling came to Teyvat. And the 5 sinners, as is revealed by Dainsleif, were very big on this abyssal magic. It would then make sense that the pygmies we see in the tale of the 6 pygmies were living in the Kingdom of Darkness already, the place that is representing the Abyss, instead of the Moonlight Kingdom or Khaenri'ah. What's really interesting is what they did to the other major protagonist in the story, the prince from the Kingdom of Light. Who is he? Well, I believe that whoever this prince is, we will meet him very soon. In fact, we will probably be resurrecting him, as the Night Mother prophesied, in just a couple of months. In Natlan, with the Gnosis. The remains of the, you guessed it, I believe this prince to be the 3rd Descender. Now, you might be thinking that this does not make any sense, as the Gnosis are the remains of the third descender, and it's presumed that the Archon War was fought for these Gnosis, and the Archon War happened way before Khaenri'ah's fall, or the Abyss siblings' arrival, yada yada yada. How does any of this make any sense? Well, first, it is only theorized that the Gnosis were the prizes of the Archon War. The sources we have for this in-game are unreliable, namely Scaramouche. I mean, the more we learn about the Gnosis, the more it is hinted that they aren't really gifts, but rather a type of curse. Skirk mentions that the Gnosis bring nothing but misfortune. Not to mention that it's heavily implied that the Gnosis represents the will of Celestia, not the Archons. You know, the Gnosis kind of remind me of those house arrests, ankle bracelet thingies, just something Celestia can use to monitor what the Archons are up to in Teyvat. And you know, for compensation, why not give them ambiguous elemental powers? One thing's obvious to me, however, the Gnosis were definitely not artifacts that dozens or even hundreds of gods would go to war for. So, that moves the timeline of the Descenders up a bit, as I believe that the arrival of the third Descender was in response to Khaenri'ah's original plan to rebel against Celestia. Well, rebel in giant air quotes against Celestia, for I believe the tale of the princess and the 6 pygmies reveals what Khaenri'ah's plan was all along, and how that plan led to the cataclysm. If the third Descender truly was a prince that came from the other side of the world to guide the princess back to his kingdom, and if we believe the princess's moonlight kingdom to be Khaenri'ah, well, Khaenri'ah's plan becomes clear. The Khaenri'ahs are tired of living in this tiny little bubble they call Teyvat, surrounded by a dark forest otherwise known as the Dark Sea. We know that King Ermin was obsessed with powers from beyond the sky, so it would make sense for the Khaenri'ahs to try and, break free from the confines of the Moonlight Forest, see what there is on the other side of the world, and maybe ask Celestia a couple of questions about the true nature of the world as well. Perhaps the 5 sinners of Khaenri'ah felt that if they followed the prince's instructions, the prince would betray the people of Khaenri'ah, as the prince hailed from the heavens. Why would he have any sympathy towards Teyvat? So, the 5 sinners, already fueled with power from the Abyss, killed the third Descender, and wished to continue the journey towards Celestia on their terms. The sinners continued dabbling with abyssal magic. Rhindaughter did a little oopsie and caused abyssal creatures to descend upon Khaenri'ah, and that lured Celestia, or the Night Mother, to Teyvat, where the Khaenri'ahs were cursed in turn. And okay, think about this. The Night Mother tells the 6th Pygmy in the tale that her greatest foe will descend, resurrect the prince, and save the princess. Cool sauce. If we really are to resurrect this prince, who happens to be the third Descender, well, that's probably gonna happen real soon, huh? The theory that the third Descender will be resurrected in Natlan has been a thing ever since Skirk revealed to us that the Gnosis are the remnants of the third Descender. Coupled with the fact that the Natlan Archon quest is called the Ode to Resurrection, it made a lot of people speculate that once the Fatui collect all of the Gnosis, which they will in Natlan, the third Descender will be revived. Perhaps we will get some crazy information about our sibling then, if the third Descender really did travel with our sibling. Perhaps he can answer questions like, why is our sibling considered to be from Teyvat? Or why she became so prominent in the Abyss Order, or even the whereabouts of the Heavenly Principles. All in Natlan, everybody. All in Natlan. Okay, one final tidbit, I swear. All the way back, in version 1.0, with Lisa's story quest, an Abyss Mage was trying to steal the book The Princess and the 6 Pygmies, revealing to us that it contained an important secret of the Abyss Order. Well, here's where it gets interesting. In the newest quest, Bedtime story, our sibling tells us that the Loom of Fate is already completed. Carrie Bear tells us that the Loom of Fate, in its uncompleted state, can implant memories. However, in its completed state, it can remake the world. I predict that in this new world the Abyss Order is trying to create, memories will be lost. Which reminds me, in Honkai Star Rail, the Garden of Recollection follows the Aeon Fu Li, the Remembrance. The Memo Keepers of the Garden are tasked with searching the universe for the most precious memories, and make sure that the universe remembers these memories even after it is destroyed and remade. In Genshin Impact, it is revealed through the Sumeru Archon quest that fairy tales and stories are able to resist the effects of Irminsul's memory deletion capabilities. Keeping both the Garden of Recollection and the importance of stories in mind, I believe the Abyss Order is collecting these fairy tales and stories to preserve them after they used Loom of Fate to remake the world and destroy all memories of the old world. The Tale of the Princess and the Six Pygmies is particularly important because it details the genesis of the Abyss Order in many ways. It details the 5 sinners of Khaenri'ah, Dainsleif, Celestia, the Third Descender, the Princess of the Abyss, and how everything came to fruition. If you think about it, maybe this is the entire point of the story of Genshin Impact as a whole. I mean, you have an oppressive ruling force in Celestia who is trapped to that in this tiny little bubble, and against it, there's the Abyss Order, who wishes to break free from this tiny little bubble and the strict laws of the world imposed by Celestia. However, while the Abyss Order is in favor of destroying the entire world and its memories before rebuilding a new world, the role we play is to find a way to mediate between the two forces, to preserve the world of Teyvat and all the memories associated with it, while also allowing Teyvatians to be in charge of their own fate, not having to restrict themselves to the wishes of the heavenly principles.